Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching the news tonight with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. On the eve of the one-year anniversary of demonetization, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley says the country is on the path to a much cleaner, transparent and honest financial system. Campaigning ends for elections to the 68-member Himachal Pradesh Assembly. The fate of 348 candidates, including 150 independents, to be sealed when votes are cast on Thursday. Air quality in North India plunges to lethal levels. Indian Medical Association issues stern warning on potential health hazards as Delhi and National Capital Region see air quality index shooting past danger levels at many places. And US President Trump arrives in South Korea for the second stop of his Asia tour, warns North Korea and its supporters that the era of strategic patience is over. South Korea announces decision to increase its weapons arsenal. Well, on the eve of the first anniversary of the government's ambitious demonetization move, reactions poured in from all corners of the country. Among the prominent voices were Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, who called it a historic move. However, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh claimed that the note ban and GST decisions broke the back of small businesses. Here's a report.
The status quo in Indian economy was begging for a shake-up, and Prime Minister Modi's government delivered it through demonetization.
We have decided that the 500 rupee and 1000 rupee currency notes presently in use will no longer be legal tender from midnight to night, that is 8th November 2016.
The Finance Minister summed up the note ban decision that completes 1 year on Wednesday. Jaitley also said the impact of the structural reforms like demonetization and the rollout of the goods and services tax is behind us, and the early economic indicators point to an improvement.
कोई demonetization one off solution है कि इससे सारा समस्या हल हो जाएगी, ऐसा नहीं है. लेकिन इसने एक एजेंडा बदला और उस बदले एजेंडा में लेस कैश इकोनॉमी की तरफ हम जाएं. नंबर ऑफ इंडिविजुअल टैक्स असेसीज, उसकी संख्या नॉर्मल की तुलना में बढ़ने लगी. डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शंस बढ़े हैं.
Jaitley once again reminded that India has been a fast-moving global economy for 3 years in a row and ripe for more structural reforms.
देश की अर्थव्यवस्था और देश के व्यापक भविष्य के लिए जो यथास्थितिवाद स्टेटस को था, उसको बदलना अति अनिवार्य था. जब एक्सेसिव कैश ट्रांजैक्शन होता है तो वो टैक्स इवेजन को भी न्योता दिया जाता है.
The Finance Minister reiterated that demonetization drastically reduced insurgent activities in Jammu and Kashmir, where stone throwers are no longer so active.
टेरर फंडिंग के ऊपर एक बड़ा स्क्वीज लगा है.
The opposition refused to accept Jaitley's arguments. Addressing a gathering in Ahmedabad, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh called demonetization a monumental blunder that was followed up by a badly designed and hastily implemented GST.
The 8th of November was a black day for our economy and indeed for our democracy. I remember feeling shocked when I heard the Prime Minister's announcement, and I wondered who advised him to inflict such a reckless step on our nation.
On November 8th last year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the decision to demonetize old 500 and 1000 rupee notes to combat corruption, black money, terrorism and fake currency. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Belgian King Philippe in New Delhi on Tuesday. The two leaders held talks to strengthen bilateral ties between both countries. As per official data, India is Belgium's second largest export destination and the third largest trade partner outside EU. In 2016-17, exports from India to Belgium accounted for $5.65 billion, while imports from Belgium accounted for $6.62 billion. This is King Philippe's first state visit to India after his ascension to the throne in 2013. He is accompanied by 6 ministers and a high-powered business delegation comprising CEOs of 86 Belgian companies. The Belgian king and his wife, Queen Mathilde, were also accorded a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan earlier in the day.
To improve the very good contacts that already exist and in so many sectors, because I think in today's globalized world there is a lot we can do together with the young people, universities, research centers, all kinds of sectors, cultural sectors, whatever. So for us it's a unique occasion and we are extremely happy to be here.
Well, let's now get you some election-related news in Verdict 2017. Campaigning for the elections to the 68-member Himachal Pradesh Assembly ended today. Elections to the State Assembly will take place on November 9th. Meanwhile, all special arrangements have been made for its smooth conduct. The BJP is fighting under the leadership of Prem Kumar Dhumal, while the Congress campaign is being led by Chief Minister Veerbhadra Singh.
Campaigning for the Himachal Pradesh Assembly election came to an end on Tuesday. After 2 weeks of extensive campaigning in the form of public rallies, both BJP and Congress intensified their door-to-door campaigning. The Election Commission has made special arrangements for peaceful and fair elections to be held on November 9th.
हमारे 24 पोलिंग सेशंस ऐसे हैं जहां पे 5 किलोमीटर से ज्यादा चल के जाना पड़ता है, तो उन सभी का ध्यान रखा गया है और उसमें हम ये भी ध्यान रखते हैं कि पार्टीज को समय पे मूव किया जाए जिससे वो समय पर पहुंच सके। इसके साथ ही उन एरियाज में कनेक्टिविटी बनाए रखने के लिए विशेष प्रावधान किए गए हैं। कुछ पोलिंग सेशंस ऐसे हैं जहां पर हमें हेलीकॉप्टर के माध्यम से या बोट के माध्यम से भी पोलिंग पार्टीज को और इलेक्शन मटेरियल को पहुंचाना पड़ेगा।
The election in the state will be conducted at all polling stations using EVMs and VVPATs. The Commission has already made arrangements to ensure availability of an adequate number of EVMs and VVPATs. Security arrangements have also been made for the smooth conduct of the election.
हिमाचल प्रदेश के बॉर्डर चेक पोस्ट हैं जो इंटर स्टेट बॉर्डर्स हैं, उन सभी पर सेंट्रल पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस की निगरानी रखी जा रही है। सभी पर कैमरास लगाए गए हैं, कैमरा के माध्यम से भी निगाह रखी जा रही है। उसके अतिरिक्त विशेष प्रबंध किए जाते हैं आखिर के 72 आवर्स और 42 आवर्स में, तो उसके लिए भी विशेष प्रावधान किए जा रहे हैं कि किसी भी तरह से वोटर्स को ना डराया जा सके और ना ही उसे प्रलोभन दिया जा सके।
हमारे यहाँ पे संवेदनशील बूथ 17 हैं, सेंसिटिव, और वहाँ पर सभी बूथ के ऊपर माइक्रो ऑब्जर्वर रहेंगे या फिर वेबकास्टिंग होगी। वो एक अलग अलग कैटेगरीज हैं कि कुछ बूथ पे माइक्रो ऑब्जर्वर हैं, कुछ पे वेबकास्टिंग है, कुछ में वीडियोग्राफी है, और जो बाकी के बच जाते हैं उनमें प्रिजाइडिंग ऑफिसर द्वारा फोटोग्राफी की जाएगी।
Himachal Pradesh has 50,25,941 registered voters. Voting on all 68 state seats is scheduled to take place on November 9th. Out of the 338 candidates in the fray, 19 are women. The Congress and BJP are the main contenders. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, BJP President Amit Shah today inaugurated the party's 6-day Gujarat Gaurav Mahasampark Abhiyan ahead of the next month's assembly polls by knocking on the voters' doors with a message of development. Through the door-to-door campaign, the ruling party plans to reach out to voters in 50,000-odd booths in the state. Shah launched the campaign from Naranpura constituency, from where he was an MLA earlier. He visited around 10 residential societies, including Parasnagar, a part of the campaign. Shah, along with other party workers, distributed copies of a letter written by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to voters in every house where they campaigned. Chief Minister Rupani, former Chief Minister Anandiben Patel and other BJP leaders also launched the door-to-door campaign from different parts of the state. Moving on to some other news now, Delhi woke up to a hazy morning today. The air quality in the national capital region plummeted to severe levels, reducing visibility drastically and affecting flights and trains. The air quality index shot past 400 at many places in Delhi, the second time since Diwali. The Indian Medical Association also issued a stern warning on potential health hazards. Here's a detailed report.
A choking blanket of smoke covered the national capital region on Tuesday, while air quality dropped to hazardous levels. Visibility in Delhi NCR dropped sharply as the thick smoke enveloped the city throughout the day. Flight operations at the Delhi airport were affected, leading to delays as only one of the 3 runways could be used.
The runway, we were stuck for almost half an hour in Kochi itself to 45 minutes, and then the pilot told it's because of the smoke and pollution in Delhi that the permission is not obtained. And even in the flight, it was again delayed for another 15 to 30 minutes, I think, and almost we reached here at 11:30 instead of, 11:15, 11:30 instead of 10. So almost 1.5 delay just because of this pollution and smoke. So
the centre expressed concern over the alarming situation, saying it is monitoring the situation.
चिंता का कारण है, जब एक बार ये 400 से ऊपर क्रॉस करता है एयर क्वालिटी इंडेक्स, तो ये सीवियर जोन में आ जाता है. 300 से 400 वेरी पुअर स्टेज में है. स्वास्थ्य पर इसका असर पड़ने की संभावनाएं रहती हैं. भारत सरकार इस पर चिंतित है और लगातार नजर रख रही, 24 घंटे इस पर नजर रखी जा रही है.
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal described the city as a gas chamber, attributing the pollution to crop burning in adjoining states. He directed his deputy Manish Sisodia to consider shutting schools for a few days.
सारी चीजों पे विचार कर रहे हैं कि क्या क्या हो सकता है, स्कूल बंद करने से लेके हॉलीडेज पूरे डिक्लेयर करने जो आप बोल रहे हो. लेकिन एक बार सारा पॉल्यूशन डिपार्टमेंट और हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट की रिपोर्ट्स आ जाए, क्या पार्टिकल है, कितना पार्टिकल है, उसका कितना असर देखा जा सकता है, क्योंकि लोग अल्टीमेटली घर पे भी रहेंगे तो कहीं ना कहीं पॉल्यूशन तो कमरे में भी है.
The Indian Medical Association also hit the panic button, declaring Delhi a public health emergency state.
IMA declares Delhi in a public health emergency state. स्कूल बंद हो जाने चाहिए, लोग घरों से बाहर नहीं निकलने चाहिए, खासकर एल्डरली, प्रेग्नेंट लेडीज, बच्चे, हार्ट के पेशेंट, अस्थमा के पेशेंट, बाकी सब लोगों को भी प्रिकॉशंस लेनी चाहिए.
The Indian Meteorological Department said no let-up was expected in the smog conditions over the next 3 days.
This type of scenario we are expecting for another 3 days. Due to that, we have given warning for another 3 days for dense to very dense fog for Punjab, Haryana, including Delhi, northern parts of Rajasthan and some parts of West UP.
As Delhi reeled under heavy smoke, the National Green Tribunal slammed the governments of Delhi, Uttar Pradesh and Haryana, asking them to explain why preventive steps were not taken to control the air quality. It also asked the Central Pollution Control Board to state what emergency directions it had issued to tackle the situation. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, 3 militants, including Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar's nephew and another commander from the group, were gunned down by security forces in South Kashmir's Pulwama district in Jammu and Kashmir. Army soldier was killed in the encounter. Here's a detailed report.
3 militants were killed in an encounter on Tuesday in Pulwama district of South Kashmir. An army man was also martyred while a civilian suffered injuries. The encounter broke out between security forces and militants in the Aglar area in the district. This was after security forces launched a cordon and search operation following information about the presence of some militants.
An excellent operation, nicely coordinated between Army, Police, CRPF, and executed in a excellent manner. 3 militants were neutralized. Unfortunately, one of our jawans were martyred, and this was a group of Jaish-e-Mohammed.
One of the 3 militants killed in the encounter last night is believed to be the nephew of Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Maulana Masood Azhar. A US-made M4 rifle used by the Pakistani Army Special Forces was also recovered from the site. Besides investigating the claim made by a Jaish spokesperson about the death of the JEM chief's nephew, security forces will also probe as to how the US-made rifle made its way to Kashmir.
कोशिश यही रहेगी कि जो भी वहाँ आतंकवाद में इन्वॉल्व है उसको हम जल्दी से जल्दी न्यूट्रलाइज कर सकें, और अगर कोई मौलाना मसूद का नेफ्यू है या कोई भी है, हमें तो आतंकवाद से को खत्म करने से मकसद है, चाहे वो किसी मजहब का हो.
सेना के जवान, अर्धसैनिक बल यानी CAPF, जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस और इंटेलिजेंस, इन चारों के बीच ऐसा बेहतर कोऑर्डिनेशन है क्या आए दिन 2, 3, 4 की संख्या में जो आतंकवादी भारत में घुस रहे हैं अथवा आतंक फैलाने की कोशिश करते हैं, उनको न्यूट्रलाइज किया जा रहा है.
On the 2nd of November, 2 army soldiers were killed and a CRPF jawan was injured in an encounter with militants at Sambura in Pampore area of Pulwama. The encounter ended with the gunning down of a militant. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it was a day of major ups and downs in the share markets. While both the BSE Sensex and NSE scaled new highs in the opening hours, they closed sharply lower on account of rising crude prices. The benchmark BSE Sensex today scaled a new peak of 33,853.63. However, it plummeted 360.43 points to close at 33,370.76. The 50-share NSE index Nifty touched 10,485, gaining 33.95 points in the opening hours. It closed lower by 101.65 points at 10,350. The fall in the markets is being attributed to negative domestic and global cues. Profit booking by funds and retail investors, rising crude oil prices, heavy fall in pharma stocks led by Lupin and DII selling aided the downtrend. Well, here's a roundup of some other news from across the country and nationwide. Addressing a press conference in Chennai on his 63rd birthday, veteran actor Kamal Haasan said that he never intended to hurt Hindus and opposed violence in the name of any religion. Amid a strong buzz of his possible entry into politics, the actor announced the launch of a digital platform which he said could act as a whistleblower. He said people can share complaints and their grievances on the app for possible redressal. India conducted a flight test of its indigenously designed and developed long-range subsonic cruise missile Nirbhay, which can carry warheads of up to 300 kilograms from a test range at Chandipur along the Odisha coast. This was the 5th experimental test of the homegrown missile system. Defense scientists are hopeful of a flawless trial this time. Out of the 4 earlier trials since its maiden launch in 2013, only one has been successful. The Indian Army and its Bangladesh counterpart have begun a week-long joint training exercise at the Joint Warfare Centre in Umroi cantonment of Meghalaya. General Officer Commanding Gajraj Corps Lieutenant General A.S. Bedi inaugurated the joint exercise Sampriti, in which 14 officers from the Bangladesh Army and 20 officers from the Indian Army were participating. Medical services in Rajasthan remained crippled today as a strike by doctors entered the second day. The government has invited core committee members of the All Rajasthan State and Service Doctors Association for talks today. Services of private hospitals and army doctors are being taken to tackle the crisis. Health Minister Kalicharan Saraf has invited doctors for talks today. The Sri Lankan Navy today apprehended 4 fishermen hailing from Tamil Nadu's Pudukkottai with one boat near Delft Island. The fishermen were taken to a naval camp in Sri Lanka for questioning. The fishermen were apprehended near Kachadivu Island. The fishermen belong to Tamil Nadu's Rameshwaram. It's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Hello and welcome. I'm Amritan Rai and you're watching Law of the Land. Formulation of the minimum wage is crucial.
Minimum wage will not be same for each and every employment.
Minimum wage committee have a tripartite negotiation with the government.
Watch Law of the Land on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. US President Donald Trump landed in South Korea on Tuesday, the second stop on his Asia tour. With the prime focus of the visit being on the North Korean crisis, Trump warned Pyongyang and its supporters that the era of strategic patience is over. Both presidents also said that the amount of weapons equipment South Korea will be ordering will be increased. Here's a report.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in welcoming US President Donald Trump to the presidential Blue House. Soon after his arrival, Trump had lunch with Moon Jae-in and US troops stationed at Camp Humphreys, the largest US military base in the country, and then both presidents held a meeting. Addressing a joint press conference soon after, Moon Jae-in hoped that Trump's visit to the country proves to be a turning point for the situation on the Korean peninsula, while Trump again called on the international community to do more to tackle the North Korean issue.
North Korea situation will be a discussion that we will have front and center, and hopefully something's going to be very successfully worked out on that. And trade is something that we always talk. It's one of my favorite subjects. I guess it's one of the reasons that I had that great successful victory last year at this time.
In coming days, 3 US aircraft carriers, accompanied by guided missile destroyers and submarines, will be conducting a mock battle in the waters in the region. It is most likely a show of power by the US forces and will be seen by North Korea as a direct provocation. And China suggested that both the US and South Korea shouldn't indulge in any provocation.
我们认为呢，当前朝鲜半岛的局势高度的复杂和严峻，有关的各方呢都应该保持克制，避免相互刺激，共同致力于降低半岛的紧张状态。
China is North Korea's primary ally and has been strongly criticized by repeated US administrations for not doing enough to rein in its military programs. Trump will be meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing later this week and Russian President Vladimir Putin at a meeting of Asian leaders on the weekend. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, news from Afghanistan, where gunmen disguised as policemen stormed a television station in Kabul today, killing at least 2 people and wounding several others. The attack claimed by the Islamic State lasted about 3 hours before Afghan special forces overpowered the attackers armed with guns and grenades and freed staff trapped inside the building. The station reported that one attacker blew himself up at the gate. Another attacker went inside and shot at staff before going up to the rooftop to fire on security forces.
مونږ داخل کې و ډېر همکاران کله چې برید وشو وتلي دي هغه ځینې کسان چې ټاکیان دي هغوی د دوی منځنه لاندې ځانونه خطا کړي دي خو لکه څنګه چې تاسو ګورئ جګړه اوس هم روانه ده.
Well, let's now get you a roundup of some other news from around the world in Global Buzz. US President Donald Trump has praised Saudi Arabia's leaders after the dismissal of many senior ministers and the detention of princes in what the kingdom is calling an anti-corruption investigation. The purge and detentions that started on Saturday are widely seen as an effort by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to assert his influence within the country. Trump tweeted that they know exactly what they are doing. Parts of Vietnam remained submerged just days before a summit of Asia-Pacific leaders was due to kick off. Around 70 people were killed in the weekend typhoon and subsequent flooding. Residents and tourists in the ancient city of Hoi An made their way around the inundated streets on boats. In nearby Da Nang, meetings of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit kicked off ahead of the leaders' meeting later in the week. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, his daughter and son-in-law appeared before an anti-graft court in Islamabad today to face a trial over corruption charges. The court has been adjourned till tomorrow. The political future of Sharif, who leads the country's most powerful political family and the ruling PMLN, has been hanging in balance. If convicted, Sharif can be jailed. The United Nations Security Council urged the Myanmar government to ensure no further excessive use of military force in Rakhine State, where violence has forced more than 600,000 Rohingya Muslims to flee the Buddhist majority country. The Council expressed grave concern over reports of human rights violations and abuses in Rakhine State, especially by the Myanmar security forces. Well, on to some sports news now, where ace Indian boxer Mary Kom has made it to the finals of the Asian Boxing Championships in the 48 kilograms category at Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. She will now fight to win her 5th gold medal at the championship. 5 times world champion Mary Kom defeated Japan's Tsubasa Komura in a unanimous 5-0 verdict to make the summit clash for the 5th time in her 6 appearances at the event. For the summit clash, Mary Kom will take on North Korea's Kim Hyung-mi, and if she wins, Mary Kom would be claiming her first Asian gold medal in the 48 kilogram category. Mary Kom had won 4 gold and a silver in her 5 previous games at the event. Meanwhile, Sonia Lathar too won her way into the finals by defeating a very aggressive Yodgoroy Mirzeveva. She will be up against China's Yin Junhua in the summit clash on Wednesday. However, there was some disappointment for India as well, with the 4-time gold medalist El Sarita Devi settling for a bronze medal after losing to China's Du Dan in the semi-finals. Shikha and Priyanka Chaudhary too signed off with bronze medals. Well, that's it on this newscast. Good night.